And welcome to an explicitly ornamental edition of Ben's Junk. And let me just say right out of the gate here, for those that are watching this more for informational purposes, you might just want to stop right here, because today's two items are pretty far outside of my personal experience wheelhouse, so I think you'd be better served elsewhere if that's what you're looking for. But for those that don't mind hearing silly little stories and stuff out of me, well, you've come to the right place. So anyway, I've got a satellite receiver and I've got a cable box to discuss here. And I've got the satellite receiver out, and as you can see, it still powers up. And this is a Uniden VideoCipher 2 Plus. I think it dates to about 1994. I'm really not sure. I think it was introduced in 93. But if you've watched Archive for a long time, I think you probably know why I picked this up. I had a little episode very early on called American Ecstasy, and one of the things discussed in it, not necessarily by my hand, was something called the VideoCipher 2, which was a stab at a satellite receiver, and that was around the time they were starting to make it more like real cable pay TV. Because once upon a time, if you had one of those big satellite dishes, you could just watch whatever. But then they started encrypting and scrambling and all that good stuff. And so it became more like regular cable TV. But this is from towards the end of the C-band and KU band's run, at least as a mainstream thing, and certainly here in the US. So anyway, I found this not too terribly long after American Ecstasy in a thrift store, and I hadn't had any real experience with satellite stuff, and I still haven't. And the odds that I'll have it anytime soon are very, very slim. But I picked it up because of that episode. I just thought it would be a cool little thing to have around the archive. And it was intended to eventually become, as well as the next item, to become more of an ornamental thing around here. Just something cool to look at, maybe in the background or something at some points. This was when I started to do the box segments more regularly. But it never happened because it's just too big. I have too much other stuff that needs storage and needs the shelf space a lot worse. So this just went in a box, and it's actually been living in my storage unit as long as I've had it. But anyway, obviously I can't really do much of any testing for you. Maybe I'll hook it up later just to see if I can still get the blue screen and whatever on-screen junk. But, you know, you get what you get. You get channels, and you can adjust the satellite if there was one hooked up. And I guess maybe I'll have to turn this around just to take a quick look at the back. But again, it was just one of those things that was really meant more for decorative purposes. My only experience with big old-fashioned C-band satellite was when I was a kid and my family had just moved to Denver, and one of our neighbors had one of them. And they didn't really use it a whole lot, and when they did, my understanding at least was it was only for the free-to-air stuff, and there's really not much on there. But I was friends with their son. We were the same age, and we had this notion, well, more accurately, I had this notion that it would make one hell of a great water slide. And we were caught before we were able to use it. It was still hooked up and everything, so that might have been a little problem. But anyway, I told you it'd be just silly stories and stuff. Let's take a cut here. We'll take a little look at the back, and then I'll bring out the cable box. Alright, just in the name of completeness, let's take a quick look at the back here. Now, I am pretty sure that pretty much the entire left half of this thing is meant for the satellite hookups, all of it. So we got the little areas with the screws that you can, crimp a piece of wire and screw it down. And then you got RF inputs, one for C-band, one for KU. And then you've got, I found this interesting. You've got a card slot here, but, normally with like cable TV or something, when there's a card, it's more to dictate what you can and can't watch. But my understanding is, I read this on Wikipedia, so this could be totally wrong. But it was in case somebody hacked the VideoCipher system and they would have to update it and give you another card. I think it was more to protect the broadcasters than the consumer. But anyway, the right half of this thing is much more standard territory for the most part. Composite in and out, RF in and out. And these are marked as, like, for computers, data, that sort of thing. So I guess you could run it to a computer, or maybe it's just more part of the satellite system. I, once again, do not know. And I don't know, maybe a little pay-per-view ordering? Whatever, I just thought I'd show that to you. So let's bring out the other item. So this, to me, is far and away the more interesting of today's two items. And this is another thing I found pretty early on in Archive's run. And this is a cable box, a pretty early one for Manhattan, New York cable TV. I think it dates to the late 70s. I've never found anything to confirm that, but that would be my guess. And this thing has been through the wars. This is how I found it. It was already dented in and really, like, baked in, kind of dirty. I've never been able to clean it very well. But it does, I don't have it plugged in right now because there's no lights or anything, but it, as of the last time I had this out, it's still powered up and stuff. And I was able to do a little bit of a parlor trick with it in that channel 3, it's just a normal old knob here, channel 3 would just pass through whatever happened to be on TV at the moment, or if you ran it through a VCR or something. But if you switched it, I forget if it was to channel 2 or to channel 4, it would look like scrambled cable. And so that was kind of cool. And I had been kicking around the idea of using it as an effect for when it would be pertinent to archive episodes. But I actually found a videotape that I had recorded in the 90s that involved some actual scrambled cable that was of VH1. And my cable company growing up only ran VH1, it used to be a music video channel, until 4 p.m. Then it would kick over to the Spice channel, and it would be scrambled. And I was recording an episode of, I think it was Pop-Up Video, and before the video could even end, it kicked over to scrambled cable. And I even remember the video that was playing, and it's weirdly appropriate. It was Shock the Monkey by Peter Gabriel. I don't think it gets more appropriate than that. But anyway, this box was also intended and used in what I was going to do for a little while. I was going to do, it ultimately became Ben's Junk, but I was going to take that stuff that I just didn't think I could make an episode on, and I would write an article about it, and I would post it online. And I think this is one of 2 installments I ever wrote for that. It's on oddityarchive.com under the blog section. Still there, haven't touched it. And I just decided not to go with it because I just felt like I could, everybody thinks of archive as videos. So that seemed like I was just fighting what archive is by doing that. But yeah, it was the subject of the probably one and only real attempt at doing an occasional text article style version of archive. But anyway, there really isn't much to say about this. I've never been able to test it all the way through. Cable TV hasn't worked like this in years. But it's just, I've always loved this. I've always wanted to keep this as an ornament, but again, just space limitations have kept that from happening. And it's been a little chewed up even in my possession. So like, once upon a time, this little piece of paper here with all the phone numbers was in a little better shape. But it's been knocked around, admittedly, by me a few times over the years. But this is just a really, really simple thing. I mean, this is like, I think down there, I'd imagine, with the original on-TV boxes. But you got two RF ports, and then you could run through another item if you wanted to, as long as it's not polarized. But there's just not much to say here, but I've always loved this thing, and someday I intend to bring this back and make it more of a decorative thing, but it's just not really in the cards right now. But anyway, I guess I'll end this episode with just some real basic kind of sort of test footage. So just to show you what the on-screen stuff looks like for the VideoCipher, and then I'll see if I can't recreate my little parlor trick with this thing. But otherwise, that's it for this edition of Ben's Junk. Thanks for putting up with my rambling and reminiscing, and I will see you again soon. Okay, so the initial intent was to try and get a direct feed of this just straight to the computer, but it was just all or nothing signal-wise. So I've actually had to dig out this old TV for the first time in God knows how long just to try and do this. And I haven't been too successful in getting that scrambled effect going, but I'll try it one more time, and I'm just going to sit here with the box and just fidget with the knobs and see what happens. Maybe I'll get lucky, maybe I won't. I've got the beta hooked up right now and an old archive work tape in there with an archive riffs on it, so hopefully we're good copyright-wise, but let's just give this a shot. Let me turn on the box and then turn on the tape.
They review the safety rules they discussed yesterday. The 4 rules are:
don't accept gifts from strangers.
Children know how important it is to remember
there it is, sort of.
rules.
But we can't be bothered to answer our own damn question.
Do you remember the reason for this?
Yeah, your secret's me.
Don't walk through dark
Things to do or see on the way home from school.
Today, Mr. Whipple was waiting to them.
All children love.
Yeah, I just can't seem to latch on to the effect, but I think you get the idea. That's it for this edition of Ben's Junk, for real this time. I'll see you again soon.